Live. We are live. I think we are anyway. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the launch of the Craic. Down to the wire. We only just published the page and all the links 30 seconds ago, 2 minutes, actually about 2 minutes ago now. So this is going to be a bit of a Q&A, and we're still going to be posting links. I still need to send out the newsletter while I'm chatting with you, because it is down to the wire. Thought we'd get all this done now before we went live, but we haven't. All right, so I'm going to put up here, the Craic is now live. So we're going to talk about this whiskey over the next few minutes and half hour, whatever, however long we need to stay and talk about this, because it's gone live. I want to talk about the various options, but as I do, before we do that, feel free to put any questions in there, or let me know if you're drinking something in the meantime, or if you're just too busy ordering the whiskey. But we're now live anyway. I'm going to stay here and take your questions, but I need to send out the email to everybody. So that's ready to go. Let me check the email. So I just put the link live in the group. The Craic is live and mighty is the post I put in the group there now. All right, so William said he bought it prematurely, said it went through to Folsom, then the link disappeared. Yeah, it should be good to go. Okay, so Dave is stuck in a loop, keeps trying to add the tealing, won't let him check out. So this is one of the problems we were having. Okay, we're going to fix this. This is what the Q&A is for. Stay with me. We are having some technical difficulties with a pop-up. I'm trying to get this pop-up disabled. There is some technical gremlins that we've just not, we thought they were fixed. All right, bear with me. This is live kind of QA, quality assurance testing, live. It's like the Microsoft way. Release something and then get everybody else to tell you about the bugs and then fix the bugs. All right, I think we are. Make sure here. It's not peated, Caroline. No, it's not peated. No peat. Is it peppery? There is a mild, very light spice to it, to be honest. It's not spicy at all, really. Michael Caldwell already got his through the link for Europe. Great stuff, Michael. Thanks for buying the European bottle. Rebecca was able to order. Dave, try and use a different browser if you're struggling with that one, or your phone. We're trying to get that. There's a pop-up that is just annoying us like nothing else. All right, I'll get to all your comments now while I just try and send out the email. You're basically tuning in to watch me send emails. Isn't that the most amazing entertainment to have on a Monday night? All right, let me get this sent out. The Craic now available. Continue. For all of our folks who want to buy via the email links, launch of the Craic. All right, send that out now. Okay, so I just sent out our email. So Rebecca was able to order. William seems to be ordered. Brian Redden has ordered. Dan has ordered, and the tasting kit. Stacey has ordered. Eric has ordered. Okay. William is tuned in for the Irish accent. Well, there'll be no avoiding that anyway. It's getting more Cork by the day as well. And Stacey had a look at her iPhone. Okay. The Craic. The Craic is mighty. Good man, Daniel. Daniel ordered his as well. And Johnny left the beach to get his order in. All right. So we are, let me see where to start. This is the most unrehearsed, unprepared live stream we've ever done, as if we ever prepared any of the previous ones. This is the whiskey. Here it is. The Craic. 2 stacks, 12-year-old single grain. As you can see, there is a leak in the bottle and it has been disappearing at a rate of knots. This is the first single grain, single cask that Two Stacks has done. It is based on, it's the same early distillate that was used in their award-winning Time Well Spent release, which won a World Whiskey Award for best single grain. What's different about this compared to the Time Well Spent? Time Well Spent was finished in rye casks. This is finished in a California style Madeira cask. And I'm going to explain all about what that is and talk about its details in a little bit. But I want to make sure that you're all aware that the links are live. If you do want to buy it, I know some of you already know that you want to buy it, and you might be wondering, where can you get it? The links are in your email. The links are in our Facebook group. The links are on storiesandsipps.com. Just go to storiesandsipps.com, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see the Craic now available. And hopefully that makes sense. Jeff got his order in. Donna says it's an exciting day for the parish. It is the Global Whiskey Parish. It's an exciting day. So I just wanted to jump on here and do nothing else, only to kind of talk about what were the logistics of all of this. There's a kind of a lot. The logistics, I didn't know anything about the logistics of getting whiskey released. Let me tell you, we did have some experience with the story a couple of years ago, but it was nothing compared to just the challenges that have faced the world since, and the challenges of getting things not just from Ireland to the United States, but from one part of the United States to the other. Honestly, the bits within California took longer than the journey between Ireland and California, if you can believe that. There is a shortage of truckers. There's a shortage of longshoremen. There's just delays at customs. There's delays at every aspect of this. But look, we can't complain. We've got whiskey in our hands now. We had to wait for it through no fault of anybody along the way. Just the systems are not playing with us. This is a single grain whiskey, and the reason we're releasing this as our first whiskey is a couple of reasons. One, we've become great friends with the gentlemen who run Two Stacks Whiskey. We have become buddies with them. We are very fond of them and their whiskey, and they've released remarkable whiskeys, whether they're in cans or bottles, over the past year and a half. We've been delighted to help them launch in the United States when they launched their dram in a can, and really are big fans of what they're doing. And when it came to time to launching the club, the first person I asked about doing something, the first people I asked about doing something in terms of bottling was Shane, Liam, and Donal at Two Stacks. And I said, gentlemen, would you ever be our first whiskey? And they were thrilled, and I was thrilled that they were thrilled, and now we're all thrilled that we're all thrilled. And it's been a fantastic journey of learning, of really just not my knowledge curve on whiskey launch has gone like a hockey stick to try and understand all these bits. And I've had an education along the way, thanks to everyone involved. And so we're releasing this single grain whiskey as something special. It's a very unique whiskey. It's a very different style. It's not like any whiskey I've ever tried before. And it's unique for a number of reasons. One is it's a single grain, and a single grain whiskey is the most untalked about, sadly, and the most it deserves perhaps far more recognition than it gets, but sadly too much single grain whiskey is used in the blending process of whiskies and is not released on its own, and that's a sad thing. And I think a lot of that in the past was because single grain whiskey requires great wood management, great maturation skill in balancing the distillate and the wood. It's a light, delicate spirit, and perhaps historically there wasn't the attention paid to it because perhaps the wood wasn't perhaps up to the task historically. Today, that's very different. We've seen lots of single grain whiskies released in the past few months, and I think we'll see a lot more. It's a whiskey made predominantly with corn, with maize, 95% maize, 5% barley. It's a light, delicate whiskey, and it has had a unique maturation period. It's been 12 years in a bourbon barrel. It was distilled at the Cooley Distillery in County Louth. 12 years aging in bourbon between Cooley, and then moved it over to Great Northern Distillery. The Two Stacks lads bought it early on, or probably halfway through its maturation, and they continued its maturation at the Great Northern Distillery. They then moved it to the Killowen Distillery, which we're very familiar with, where it finished its maturation, having been recast, moved into a European oak cask that used to contain a white wine, a French white wine, and then that cask was sold to a broker who sold it to a vineyard in California, a bulk large producer of wines in outside Fresno in California, and they filled it with a California style Madeira. Madeira is a sweet wine. It's a fortified wine, high in alcohol, 16-17% alcohol content, and high in sugar. And so it's sweet and it's rich. It's often used for it's used in restaurants use it in flavoring for sauces. Madeira is a lovely after dinner drink, before dinner drink. Madeira being the island, Portuguese island off the west coast of Africa. And there, so it was used to age their Madeira, and then it came back to Ireland, where this single grain spirit was put into this cask, and it spent about 6 months maturing, so finishing. We can't really call it a maturation. It's really only a finish. 6 months in there, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And along the way, we tasted it, we tried it, we thought, this is really unusual. What's going on here? Fionnán O'Connor tasted it, Brendan Carty tasted it, Liam Brogan, Shane McCarthy, Donal McLean. They all tasted it and tried it and gave their feedback. And when we first tried it, we thought, let's give it some more time in the cask. Let's try and get some more of those familiar notes out of the European oak from the Madeira that we might be used to. Maybe the darker fruit notes, perhaps some of those raisiny characteristics, perhaps some of the creaminess that might come from that kind of rich fortified wine. And we got very different notes altogether. We didn't know which way it was going to go. And we've got a really unique whiskey here. I'm really excited about it. Fionnán O'Connor reckons top 5 single grains he's ever tasted, which is great praise. Cooley Distillery made some of the best single grains. They did so for many, many years. And they're finding their way now into the hands of the likes of, well, Teeling have released one. There's so many single grains now popping up. It's hard to keep up with them. But we're really lucky that we've got a single grain distilled by Noel Sweeney at the Cooley Distillery back in 2009. So let me pause there for a second, take a glass of water, and look at some of the questions here coming in. Mark's got his order in. All right, fair play to you, putting the order in. That's fantastic. Cheryl's having the same problem with the Teeling rum offer. Okay, so let me message our trusty partner here on this, so bear with me. We're going to try and get this Teeling pop-up sorted for you all. We're doing live customer service and live troubleshooting here. That's the whole point of this, I suppose. All right, let me go back on there. Caroline has tried 2 browsers, pop in both that you can't get rid of. Okay. Well, Caroline, we'll get that sorted, and Cheryl will get that sorted as well. Aaron, they are available. The members links are up for Ireland. They're up there. It's available. Any member can purchase through our link that has been sent out. I'm going to put the link in the chat here again. But if you're a member in Ireland or a member in UK or Europe, as we have some, we've got 24, maybe 36 bottles available in Ireland that will be shipped. Oh, I pasted that in the wrong place. Sorry, Larry. That should go up here. Yeah, it's going through Irish Malts. It's a private link. You can't get it on Irish Malt's website. You have to go through our site. Yeah, so it seems like there is that link, that Teeling problem. So, okay, let me see. All right, we'll troubleshoot this live. This is the joys of it. Okay. All right, so bear with me. Knocking over glasses. If you're having those problems with the pop-up, we'll try and get those solved. But don't worry, we've got plenty of stock of the whiskey, and we'll get it sorted. So we'll get that pop-up. Try a different browser if you can, or clear your cache. Some of you are finding this is an issue. Some of you are not. Let me check here. Jeff had no issues ordering. Okay, so it is, and we'll talk about, we'll get you sorted anyway, Cheryl and Caroline, don't worry, we'll get you sorted. Dave was able to X out of it using Edge, but not Chrome. Okay. James has just killed the pop-up. It doesn't seem to be that easy. It seems like the pop-up is remaining for some of you. We'll get that sorted. There is a 2-bottle opportunity for you guys as well. If you do want to buy 2 bottles of it, once you do get in, we do have availability for up to 2 bottles each. Let's talk a little bit about some of the options when you're ordering it. You can also combine it with the Clanakilty tasting kit. Trying to do an awful lot here tonight. Clanakilty tasting kit, we're combining it with, so the links there are in that are on that page as well. And all right, I'm juggling 15 open windows here between our technical support and our okay. All right, so so Clanakilty Kit, which is $23 here. Let me grab one here. I have one right here. This is the Teeling, or not Teeling, this is the Clanakilty kit that we'll be using for our quarterly tasting. It's only $7 if you add it to your order when you're ordering, right? Because we can combine the shipping. In here, there'll be, you'll get, this is a slightly different box. This is an Irish box. We had one designed for the US. There'll be the single grain whiskey from Clanakilty as well. So another single grain to try. There'll be the double oak Clanakilty. There will be this Minky gin. You'll get the sample of Minky gin, award-winning Minky gin from Clanakilty. And there'll also be the port cask Clanakilty as well. That's all part of it. That's just $7. Now, if you don't want to buy the Craic and you just want to buy this, it's $23 because you have to pay for shipping. So it's $7 just to add it to your order with the bundle that we have in there. This feels like home shopping network for whiskey now. I feel like I'm flogging whiskey. On top of this, there's also you can add, for those of you who are not sick of the Teeling pop-up, there's a Teeling small batch that can be added as well. The link is in there. There's a $24.95 offer on the Teeling small batch. All right. So home shopping network is live. I should have numbers on the screen here that's counting down how many sold, how many's gone. Chris said it worked on his phone. Brendan Carty's there. Yoo-hoo. Daniel ordered it on his phone successfully. Tried it on the phone. Caroline's still blocking. Okay. Just kill the pop-up. All right. Well, if you do still have that issue, we'll get it sorted. Our tech support is on it at the moment. Yep. Okay. All right. Let me check here. Jason can't get the Teeling message to clear. Just keeps adding bottles to the cart of being able to X. All right, we'll get that sorted, Jason. We'll get it sorted. Okay. So it looks like for those of you who do want the Teeling, it can't be added. It can't be added at all. All right. No problem. All right, we'll get this sorted. Let me check. Worked on Chris's phone. All right. John O'Donovan says somebody looking for IT. Yeah, they are, John, but not on the Irish side. You're grand. You're grand. You've it covered. So we have it. If you are in Ireland, it's available as well. So this is one of the big questions we got. Is it available to our European members or UK members? We've John at Irish Malts have been very kind to support us and arrange for the shipping of this. So it's available as well through the link on our website. You can find it by searching Irish Malts. It's a private link. And it's available through our website. So go to storiesandslips.com and follow the links, and you'll be able to purchase it there. It's €69 in Europe, $79 in the United States. And that's just for the Craic. We don't have the Clanakilty kit available there. So, yeah, the joys of it, the joys of global logistics. No, John, no tech problems your side. All good. All good. All right, let me see. The lads in Two Stacks are opening, have theirs open at the moment. So we're not going to do a full tasting of this at the moment, but I do want to talk about, we will do a tasting on this and we'll talk about the Festival of Grain we're hosting as well and our Clanakilty tasting that's coming up as well. This is a unique whiskey for a number of reasons, apart from the fact it's a single grain, which is the most produced style of whiskey in Ireland, only you wouldn't know it because Jameson and Bushmills and Paddy and Powers Gold Label tend to hide it away in their blends and not talk about it a whole lot. But they instead romance the barley side of things, Blarney as well. And they don't talk about the other grain that goes into making Irish whiskey, which is maize. And maize is a fantastic grain to use to make whiskey. It makes for a light, delicate, floral spirit and really extracts some of the wood flavors, the wood contribution. And the other reason why this is quite unique is that it's a very high ABV. So I know that lots of the United States have been crying out, especially bourbon fans have been crying out for a higher ABV whiskey and not satisfied with perhaps the lowest minimum available whiskey, or kind of the lowest by law allowed whiskies of 40% ABV or 80 proof. I think we've solved that now. This one, this is 63% ABV or 126 proof. So it needs a few drops of water or an ice cube, I think, to really extract some of the flavors. But even at 63%, I didn't get the spice, the heat, let's be honest, the burn you might get at a 63%, you might get in other spirits or other whiskeys. It's not here with this. There's an overriding dairy creaminess to this. There is a corn, a sweet corn, a creamed corn sweetness to this that is really, really unique, and it carries through so well. But with a few drops of water and even an ice cube, I've really enjoyed this. Bear in mind that when whiskey blenders, master blenders and distillers are tasting their whiskeys prior to release, they're typically bringing their whiskeys, their spirits, all the way down to 20% ABV to 30% ABV. Most of them taste their whiskeys at 20% ABV to detect as many flavors as they possibly can and get as many notes as they can. And the scientists will tell us that our noses and our palates are best acclimatized or best capable of detecting all of the available notes and compounds at between 20 to 30% as well. That's not to say you can't taste this at 63%. It'll be your whiskey. You can do what you want with it. But I'd really encourage you to play around with it and find the sweet spot. The reason we're shipping it at this high ABV is that it's a club whiskey. Club whiskies, I think, should be bottled at their cask strength. And they should give you the chance to add the water, the ice, the Red Bull, the Coke, whatever you want to add to it at your, as you like. Shouldn't be up to me to decide what water to add to your whiskey. That's your job, and you're the whiskey expert for what you like, not me. So that's another reason why it's unique. So let me take a look at some of the comments here. Nick says the 12-year-old was sold out in 15 minutes. I don't think so, Nick. No, we're still selling, I believe. Are we? You can't possibly have gone through 300 bottles in 15 minutes. Steve says the tasting kit is already sold out. All right, let's go back to our tech support. I don't think the tasting kit can have sold out either. We have so many of these. All right, we'll check our numbers. The beauty of live tech support. That's me right here. Okay. All right. Larry, if you're listening, can we check perhaps the quantities on those whiskies, the kits? Growing pains. Okay, so we'll get this checked. Don't worry, launches aren't supposed to be supposed to be easy. We're assured that they're not going to be easy. Absolutely assured. So many tech things to get right, isn't there? All right, so people saying there's a message that's sold out. Okay, we'll fix that. James says, any other payment options, for example, a credit card? That is the payment option. Credit card, so that should work for you. Caroline says, finally got around the pop-ups, now it's sold out. All right, we'll get this back up. I think it's just a matter of us increasing the quantities, which I don't have access to here. But Larry's going to fix that for us now. So rest assured, you'll all get your whiskey. There'll be no panic. Cheryl, we'll get it all sorted. No need to panic, no rush for anyone. It looks like a lot of people tied up whiskey in their accounts, according to Dave, which were locked in the loop. All right. Okay. All right. We're gonna get around all of this. We get this fixed. All right. Okay. I need a drink now, I tell you that. I'm going to pour a drop of the Craic here, unwatered down, just a little drop. And the reason this bottle has gone down, because I'm the chief tester, and it's my job to ensure that what you get is what you should get. And that takes a lot of work, a lot of nosing, a lot of tasting. All right, so we'll get an update there now once we see the numbers. Everyone's cracking up. Francis places order. Great stuff. Cup of tea and go back at it. That's it. No panic. Let there be no panic. No panic. I am not going to panic. I refuse to panic. I will only panic when everything that's here behind me is empty. Then there'll be panic, major panic. And I'm going to sit here until all this gets solved or all the whiskey behind me gets drained, one or the other. We'll have a solution either way. All right. Lovely nose. Anyway, I'm not going to do a full tasting because we're going to do the tasting live together. All right. Okay, so we've got orders going out around Ireland, UK, Northern Ireland, mainland United Kingdom, all around the US. Lorcan says he's heard wonderful things about this release from Brendan Finan and the lads at Two Stacks. That's great. I'll be honest with you now. I have not historically been a single grain drinker, and I was relying on early on those who understood single grain to educate me. And I've come to understand what makes a good single grain, what makes a poor single grain. And interestingly enough, a few of us were down in the Middleton Distillery last week, 2 weeks ago, for the Middleton Academy tasting some of their single grain spirit, their grain spirit that comes from their column stills. And it was extraordinary to, having spent the last couple of months tasting this, to compare to Middleton's single grain and just understanding the notes that were similar, the notes that were vastly different. Yet I thought ours, I might be a bit biased, thought ours was superior. There's bourbon cask age, no finish. Ours is bourbon cask age with a lovely Madeira cask, ex-California Madeira cask finish. And it gives really wonderful notes. Like, I will share some of them, but it's just this wonderful potpourri, a bouquet of flowers on the nose, roses, a little hint of vanilla. And there's that lovely kind of cream corn. It's hard, if you get creamed corn at Thanksgiving, you either love it or hate it, but there's some of that cream corn note comes through here on this. But it's so delicate. It's so delicate. And there's no water added to this now. You know how many devices I've got buzzing here now? All right. We still have stock left in Ireland. Message in there from John O'Donovan at Irish Malts. Great. We've sold 10 in Ireland, 26 in stock. All right. So we had 36 there. Great. Great stuff. Patrick got his. Good man, Patrick. He got his on the Irish Malts in Europe. All right. See, look, you hear all these beeps, beep, 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 notification, left, right, and center. Do. All right. It should be available. Refresh your browsers. Okay. Larry, will you be able to make sure, or could you confirm that it's both the kit and the whiskey itself? And the kits are updated and available. And that the pop-up is disappearing. Right. Can't keep up with all the messaging here. Okay. IT is sorting it all out. All right. And again, don't worry, folks. We have loads of this. We have 330 bottles of it. There's plenty to go around. We won't go through all this in an hour. I can tell you that. The story that we released 2 years ago took a week. It took a full week to get through all of it, through 3 different emails that we had to send out. It took a week, would you believe, to get through 200 bottles. I'm not expecting this to sell out instantly. I think we're going to have some bottles of this available for quite a while. And that's good because we get new members joining who can participate as well. So I think we've plenty. I think we've more than enough. So don't worry. We'll get to all of it. Okay. So we'll get you all sorted. We'll get you all, if there's any issues or things you wanted to add and couldn't add, or we'll get it sorted. It does look like the Teeling pop-up is the thing that's stopping most people from being able to add the Clanakilty. But what we'll do is, before we ship anything, we'll figure it out. Message us tomorrow once we've had a chance to get all this sorted, and then we'll go through it. In the meantime, just going to keep drinking, and that solves most things here. Jason, we'll get you sorted. We will get you sorted. Brian wants more bottles of the story. We all do. Chris wants to know how much was shipping. It depends where you are, Chris. It varies based on your location. Stacy in there supporting us with their saying IT is fixing everything. Clear your cache. Keep trying. Plenty of stock. We were due one of these issues, I think, because everything we've done up to now has, I will say, been remarkably straightforward. But these things happen. These things happen. Everyone is participating with the best of intentions, helping us out nonstop, and giving us their time and their efforts, and everyone's pulling together. So we'll all get it. Everyone's going to get sorted. If there are any issues, let me know. We'll make you whole. We'll make sure you get what you need, and you won't be out of pocket for things you didn't want. And if there's things you wanted to add that you couldn't, 100% we'll get it sorted. There's no two ways around it. No two ways around it. You can grab up to 2 bottles, Jeff, at the moment for yourself, 2 per person. If you want to grab, we don't, well, how will we know if more than 2 are available? That's a good question. Give us a few days once we've made the offer a few times by email. And then if they're still sitting on the shelf, which I have every guess they will be, again, we have so many, we have a lot, which is great. Then we'll open it up to you again, and you can buy as many as you want after that. And let me see. Kevin had no pop-up issues. And maybe end of the week. Yeah, maybe, Jeff. Leave it with us. We'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. IT is fixing everything anyway. Patrick wants to just walk down to 2 Stacks and pick it up. But they don't store it there. It's all gone. It all left the building. It's all down in Little Island in Cork and in Folsom in California at the moment. Red Patcher says, so Folsom has the bottle by themselves. Folsom is our retail partner for membership whiskies and Irish malts in Europe. Dave says Larry must have had a lot of teeling he wanted to get rid of. All right. Tech says we are updated and available. Folks, empty your baskets, refresh, do whatever you have to do. Buy a new computer, phone, tablet. I don't mind. Whatever you have to do, borrow your children's phones, tablets. It's back. Everything's back, updated in stock. And you should be good to go. You should be good to go. And if Larry, if you can't move your teeling, we're very sorry. We'll try and help you push it. The poor teeling causing all kinds of problems. No one's ever going to want to see teeling again. All right. Kelly got the ultimate order in. This is the good news of the day. Ordered a pair of the Craic and the tasting kit and the teeling. It's possible, folks. If we dream big enough, it can be done. Kelly got his. Kelly did it. He broke all the records here. Brilliant stuff. All right. Fair play, Larry. Thanks for helping us and getting that sorted and tech support. Eric kept a bottle of the story and may now bring it out for tastings of other club releases. I've only got 1 bottle left here somewhere. Hidden away, squirreled away. This was the original one that got our minds going. Unopened bottle of the story. So this will be on the shelf in the drinks cabinet of our Stories and Sips physical location next to this whenever we have our physical location. But I'll get a full bottle of this. All right. So I think we are sorted on the tech side of things. Dearmid got his. All right. Everyone in the Stories and Sips Whiskey Club committee having the chat there. Thanks for all your help, folks. Yeah. We'll get you sorted. And what we'll do is we'll hold off on shipping until we know you're all sorted and you got what you need. I need to go in to my shipping cart and remove anything that was in there in case that's stopping you get yours. Okay. There's the 4,000 that I wanted removed. Okay. That pop-up is still there, Larry. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but it does seem to be preventing a lot of people from either adding anything or some of them even checking out. So, how are we looking now? How are we looking? All right. Jeff, Steve got past his. All right. This is a new pop-up that we don't really know how it arrived there. That's going to be the next whiskey now we release, going to be called the pop-up. It's the only way. It's the only way. The pop-up. How to access the Clan and Teeling kits in the EU. Dahi, we can't, unfortunately. This is one of the banes of our existence, the banes of our lives. If you're in the European Union, sadly, the only thing we can make available to you is the Craic right now. Let's talk about that for a second. So, Stories and Sips Whiskey Club originated and is, to this day, an American-based club. It was designed for our wonderful American friends. I live in the United States and split my time, go back and forth to Ireland. I'm in Ireland at the moment, but I'm in the United States. Most of our members are in the United States. Most of our community that we've built up over the past 2 years is in the United States. There are many ways to get hold of Irish whiskey in Europe that don't exist in the United States. And when we could no longer kind of sustain the lock-in that we were doing, every Friday night, 63 Friday nights in a row, maybe one or two missed, 63 lock-ins we did. The gap that was created by not having a lock-in was kind of filled by the demands for a way to get together, a way to get access to Irish whiskies, a way to connect with the makers that we were connecting with on the lock-in, and doing that for our American guests primarily. And the reason why it's American focused is because that's where I'm based, that's where the majority of our audience is based, and it's where the biggest education opportunity lies for Irish whiskey, and it's where where it's hardest to get hold of the Irish whiskies that go on the market. We've brought tasting kits to the US through the club of whiskies that would not have normally been available to people in the United States, and that's really the goal, is to get more people in the United States tasting whiskies from Ireland that they wouldn't otherwise taste, or Irish adjacent whiskies, like those that are made by Brian Nation or those that are made by Talnua in Colorado that have real big Irish stories and are important to us. So when I went about creating, I didn't know anything about the creation of a logistics business. The Whiskey Club is a logistics business that also has whiskey. And the production of the whiskey is done masterfully by distilleries and put together by brands. And then it's my job to bring together the right people that can bring the whiskey to our members in the United States, where 98% of our membership lies. The challenges lie in creating corresponding similar kind of parallel supply chains for those whiskies in Ireland and in the UK and in Europe. And the reason for that is because we have to upfront the cost for the whiskies. We have to buy the whiskies. And we have to, when we're, like, for example, when we're releasing the Craic or the Story, and we have to know that we're going to have the supply chains in place to be able to distribute and sell those out. If we try and build out multiple parallel supply chains for Ireland and the UK and for Europe all at the same time for everything we do, our costs go through the roof. There's just no way to avoid it because of the man time, the manpower, the woman power, the person power it takes to manage, from a logistics standpoint, all the different channels. There's just no way around it. We would have to increase costs. We'd have an increase in costs all the way along. And so the best thing I can possibly do at the moment, at the scale we're at, is say we'll do as much as we can to have whiskies left behind in Ireland. But there's some things that just can't be. They're just, for logistics reasons. It's not that. And it doesn't seem crazy. Like, how come you're releasing whiskey in America from Ireland, yet it's not available in Ireland? Like, why couldn't we buy the Story in Ireland? Or why couldn't we buy your first sets of tasting kits in Ireland? And the reason was because they were shipped out to the US. The economies of scale associated with getting them to the US worked then. We couldn't leave any behind. We couldn't set up separate shipping channels. It just wouldn't work. It's just, I could spend hours talking about all the reasons why it can't work right now. And the focus has to be right now in the United States because it's where the market is, and it's where Irish whiskey's opportunity is for, especially all the smaller brands who need access to a big market. And I think the likes of John O'Donovan and Irish Malts and the creation of 3 Drams, for example, is a great way for people in Ireland and the UK and Europe to get access to tasting kits in Ireland. I don't want to recreate anything somebody's already done and are doing really well in Ireland, in the UK, in Europe as well. There'd be no point, you know. So those are some of the reasons why it's always going to be more difficult for people in Europe to get hold of these whiskeys. So it's Story Sips Whiskey Club is an American-based whiskey club, and it does hurt me a little bit to admit that we can't fulfill everything in the country I was born in, but I'm really encouraged by the fact that we're actually spreading the word of Irish whiskey in markets that haven't heard of Irish whiskey beyond Jameson or beyond Bushmills or beyond Tullamore Dew. And the chances of 2 stacks getting into Ireland or getting into the United States is so much more exciting to me than, you know, people in Ireland getting access to whiskies through me that they can get access to anyway, you know. So those are some of the reasons. It's just a real logistical nightmare. It is really a challenge. Okay, so that's my rant over with there now on getting access to these bits and pieces. Works for Eric. Okay, at least we've got the bus. Yeah, we have a bus, so I mean, we can get people on a bus. If you want to come over, we can find a way to bring the whiskey in bags over to Ireland and put it on the bus for you. I suppose this is just the challenge. This is a 2-person business. The Stories and Sips Whiskey Club is a 2-person business, and it's 2 full-time people who it is a challenge even at 2 full-time people, the logistics of getting this to work. We're already working on our next release to try and get ahead of the shipping and logistics challenges of that. Maybe we'll be able to leave some in Ireland, but there's also issues related to distribution agreements that Irish producers have with their American distributors and with their European distributors. So distribution deals are very important to whiskey brands. Without them, they won't succeed. How else will they get their whiskey to market? And so when you get the likes of a whiskey club popping up saying, well, actually, we've got our own distribution channel through our own retailer, etc., be it through Irish Malts, if we can do something, or through a distributor in the United States, some distributors will raise an eyebrow and say, well, hold on, you've got a distribution agreement with us. We need you to follow our channels. And it's not that we can follow those channels. It's just that it takes more and more paperwork and more back and forth emails and more Zoom calls where distributors want to get to know us and get to understand what's going on. So there is no, if we were all in Ireland, there'd be a really easy way to get this done, because I could drive to a distillery, pick up whiskey, and then drive it to your homes one by one, you know, or bring it to the DHL who could legally ship it to you all throughout Ireland easily, and it would be an easy thing. It's not that easy. It has turned out to be not that easy, I have discovered. But look, at the end of the day, we get access to good whiskies, and we try and keep as many people as we can happy. That's all we can do, I suppose. Jason, you don't have to, there's no rush, honestly. We've got plenty of everything, so you don't need to place your order now for fear that you'll miss out. We've got plenty of all the kits. We've got more than 100, I think we have 120 kits. We've got for Clanakilty, we've got, and I don't think we're going to go through all of those, I don't believe. So I think we should be good there. All right, the pop-off is turned off, folks. We have killed the pop-up. Death to the pop-up. That's the new whiskey we're going to release in a week's time, Death to the Pop-Up. It'll be a collaboration with Teeling and with Folsom. Death to the Pop-Up. It'll be $1,000, and all that money will go to Larry to to pay for something to aid his sanity through all of these challenges. Thanks for helping with us there, Larry. Okay. So refresh whatever you need to refresh. Or empty, refresh. And we'll get it all done. Okay. Okay, so I think, would I be right in saying you should all be able to order now? You You should all be able to order. That's my hope. Now go by Teeling. If you ordered something for fear that you missed out or that you were going to miss out and you were trying to add something, just let us know and I'm sure we can get it added later. Just to add to Larry's woes and to poor Folsom's woes, I'm sure we can make it happen. We all need a whiskey now, don't we, Julia? Creamy, floral. I've not added any water now to this, and it's really, really enjoyable. Delicate flavors, and flavors again. What we're used to in the past year. I tell you what has been released more than anything else in the past year in Ireland: heavily wooded whiskies, and by that I mean the wood influence has far surpassed the distillate influence on whiskies that have been released in the past year in Ireland, the past 2 years. What are we used to? We're used to the top shelf here. We're used to these heavily sherried whiskies from Redbreast. We're used to the fortified wine being the dominant flavor profile. We're not used to the distillate, and I've been tasting whiskies. Like, I'll give you an example. Waterford whiskey. Waterford whiskey to me is distillate forward. It's young, and it is distillate driven with some wood influence. Younger whiskies aren't worse whiskies. They're just different whiskies. And it's up to us to decide what we like. And I'd be worried if we were being overly reliant on whiskies that had to reach a certain age. Instead, I've been trying to wrap my head around the complexities, the nuances of a whiskey that is not 25 years of age, or sometimes whiskies that are not even 4 years of age. What's their nuance? We've got a whiskey here that's 12 years and a bit in age, and I still think the distillate shines through. I still think that we're getting the wood influence from the bourbon, and to a smaller degree, the fortified wine. But I still think the distillate has not been lost. And I'm reminded of one of the comments Fionnán O'Connor made after tasting it. He said too many of the single grains he's tasted have been overly perhaps wood, not destroyed, but so much influenced. So maybe we've got a different whiskey here. Everyone thanking Larry for all his hard work behind the scenes there. Thanks, Larry. Refresh your browsers, everyone. Bill says Tipperary is like that for him. It's still real good for a young one. Yeah, so I think, look, the number 3, let's be honest. What does the number 3 mean when it comes to aging whiskies? It means absolutely nothing. 3 years is of zero relevance to the quality of a whiskey. It is the result of the Immature Spirits Act passed back in, I think it was 1915, designed to eliminate charlatans who were aging their whiskey for 2 days or 3 days or putting it in bathtubs. And it was designed to ensure that there was a level of quality in the drinks world in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland at the time. The Immature Spirits Act was designed to ensure that you had to have your whiskey in a warehouse or in a bonded facility, had to age for at least 3 years, which meant that those charlatans who didn't own a fixed warehouse, didn't own a bonded warehouse, couldn't afford to store whiskey for 3 years waiting for it to mature. Those were all eliminated from the market. And so that arbitrary number has existed for the past 100 years in Irish whiskey, also in Scotch, because it was the same law that was passed at the time that applied to both countries. It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't exist. There's other ways to determine it, because let's be honest, you could age the same distillate in 5 different types of casks and cask sizes, and you'd have a vastly different spirit at the end of 3 years. Quarter casks, port pipes, sherry, butts, hogsheads, bourbon barrels, all of those will give a different spirit. So it's no metric of quality. It's merely checking the box of the Immature Spirits Act, which still is a holdout today, a holdover today. Jeff Adams, determined to get his whiskey, is firing up a Windows 95 virtual machine with Internet Explorer 3. It can't be that hard, is it? Jason's still getting the pop-up. Jason, we'll get you sorted. We won't let you down. You are a great supporter of everything we've done. and your profile picture has you standing at JJ Curry in Clare, showing your love for Irish whiskey. We'll get you sorted. We should have a DOS prompt to order the whiskey going forward. That'll help poor Larry as well. All right, refresh, reboot. Folks, anyone who still has an issue, just send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, Pigeon, Horse and Carriage. Handwritten letter will get priority. Handwritten will be preferred. And we'll get you sorted. We'll get you sorted. So what we'll do is, like, this is consider this the first release. This is the Microsoft release where we get to learn what we need to patch and what bugs need to be fixed. And then tomorrow we'll have launch number 2. And then next day we'll have launch number 3. Launch number 3. James says 3 years in a barrel changes the spirit from poaching to whiskey. It doesn't, James. Poaching is a different spirit altogether. And poaching is not just unaged whiskey. It is a different spirit made in a different way. There are similarities, of course. There are similarities, but what makes a spirit whiskey, well, what makes a whiskey is not just the 3 years in the barrel, but certainly the process by how it's made, and also the grain components, what can be used in the mash bill to make it the different styles of Irish whiskey. So that would be a whole different thing we could dive into, where poaching does differ in many ways from Irish whiskey. Sometimes a poaching gets very close. Oftentimes it doesn't. But certainly the aging, you don't age poaching, but you can rest poaching in barrels for, I think, what is it, up to 16 weeks, 12 weeks. You can't age a poaching, but you can certainly rest it. You can add color to a poaching through its time in a barrel. Whiskey, yeah, Irish whiskey, at least minimum of 3 years, 36 months in a barrel, and then whatever you want to do to it after that. Cheryl, send me a message. We'll get you sorted. We'll back out if you've got 2 shipping fees. We'll get you sorted. We'll look through this list. So we'll get through this list. These items aren't going to ship immediately. All right. So folks, we're not going to get these immediately. We're going to 10 weeks for poaching. Thank you, Cahur and Stacey. 10 weeks for poaching. We're going to, it's going to be at least a week before we ship everything. At least a week. So there's no panic. We'll get all your orders aligned and get that sorted. We'll get that all aligned. So you won't have to pay 2 shipping fees at all. We will get you sorted. 100%. 10 inputs for poaching. That's it. That's the maximum. So poaching is one of 3 spirits in Ireland that has what's called a geographical indicator, GI, a protection in Ireland and the European Union. Irish cream is the 3rd. So you got Irish whiskey, poaching, and Irish whiskey. And those 3 have each their own criteria for what makes them what they are, what makes a cream, what makes a poaching, and what makes a whiskey. And the production methods, of course, vary vastly, are vastly different for all 3. But those are the only 3 protected. Protected, aren't they? Poaching, Irish whiskey, and Irish cream. Little fly in here. Looking for the whiskey. Okay, what else do we want to know? Okay, so tasting kits for Clanakilty are in there. We will do a repost on all of these things tomorrow. This is just us going live, getting things out the door. We found some bugs. You showed us what bugs exist. We'll get those bugs fixed, and then we'll make sure you all get what you need. You don't have to pay double shipping on anything. We'll get you sorted. I hope you know that if anything ever happens, you can message me anytime, and we'll get through all the messages. Within a few days, we'll get you all sorted. There's nothing life or death with whiskey, is there? There's no whiskey emergency. I've been reminded many times. There's no such thing as a whiskey emergency. There's more important things in all of our lives. But we do want to make sure that if you've placed an order, you get what you paid for. You don't get charged twice. Okay. Jeff, we will get you sorted as well. The pop-up is gone. You might have to clear your cookies and your cache if that's not already been done. That could be another option for you. Otherwise, we will send a courier to your door with an envelope that you can drop a check into, and then that'll suffice. We trust you. We trust you. Okay, does anybody have any questions on the whiskey or the kits, or anybody still having trouble that we can deal with while we're here now live? Just wanted to make sure that I wanted to come on here and make sure that we got through all of these questions for you all. We'll have an IT meeting after this to figure out on the Irish side and the American side how many are left and what issues we have, and then we'll do a printout of all the orders and we'll look through them and we'll see if there's duplicates and we'll see if there's folks who sneaked in who aren't members, and we'll get it all sorted and we'll get them all out to you. Let me talk really quickly about the model for the club here a little bit, because it's important, and that is the model of a membership for a club. And there's lots of ways to get hold of Irish whiskey. I think you'd all agree. You can have whiskey shipped to you from Ireland. You'll pay your shipping rates. You can get hold of whiskey through your local retailer. There's loads of ways to get Irish whiskey. What we're trying to do with the club is slightly different, and we're creating a model that hasn't existed up to now in the world of Irish whiskey, either in Ireland or in the United States. And that is to create a community around Irish whiskey where we can do more than just move bottles. So I've often talked about the Scotch Malt Whisky Society as being a good retail model for us to look at, because they've got multiple whiskey releases a year. They work with different distilleries. They've got their own bottle shape. They've got their audience that built up around the world. I would argue that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society created individual demand for Scotch malt, single malts around the world over the past 30 years. And they are a great model for us to look at, but they're not hugely community driven, and they're at a size where it's tough to get people together in any meaningful way. It's tough for them to be personal. They've got lots of issues on customer service side of things, and I want to avoid those things. And so the Stories and Sips Whiskey Club is built around a community model where we have community events that go around everything we do. There's community events where we meet the makers virtually and in person occasionally. There are club cask programs where I know many of you went to Minneapolis to meet with Brian Nation and participate in filling our first ever cask. There is an event coming up in Talnua in Colorado on July 3rd, where club members are going to get to meet with and non-club members incidentally as well, are going to get to meet with the distillery owners. Club members are going to get discounts on things. Our whiskey, like the Two Stacks, the Craic that we're releasing here, has a community element to it. We're all going to come together around the Festival of Grain, and we're going to meet the owners. We're going to talk to them. And the idea is that you're going to get to follow the journey. Why? So how does that work then from a financial standpoint? Well, it means that we have to run the club, and we have to create the content, and we have to put in place the logistics to make that work. And if we were to just pass along all of those costs of running the club onto the bottlings alone, it would drive the cost way up. There's no way around it. So to run the club, it does require 2 full-time people at the moment. And I expect it's going to need more than that as we grow. And those costs can't just be put onto a single bottle, or because when that bottle gets to the United States, it would just be out of reach. And this is not a model that's going to work for everybody, because people have often, I get messages, I wouldn't say daily, but I get messages fairly regularly from people wondering why we're doing what we're doing, or why a certain article you have to be a member to read a certain article. And I've had a policy since the day we started the first lock-in. And the policy was that if you were a artist, a singer, a musician, a contributor, if you didn't work for a whiskey brand, if you were somebody who had a skill, a talent, and expertise, then you were going to be paid for your talent. Every musician that ever came on the lock-in was paid for. We paid them whatever they would have charged a bar to play that night. We paid them. I paid them directly. And that was just a model. And there was a reason we didn't put a tip jar up on the screen. It was because we paid them. We paid them up front. And that helped them when the bars were closed and musicians couldn't play in the venues they were used to playing in. So when the club came around, this idea of starting a club came around, I knew I wanted to replicate that model, but I wanted to go even further with it. So right now in the Stories and Sips Whiskey Club, we've got people who write tasting notes for us. We've got people who create cocktail recipes for us. We've got people who write articles for us. We've got people who put all that content together. We've got people who design graphics for us. We've got people who send emails for us. Every single person who does anything for the club is paid. Everyone, they're all paid. And I don't tell them what they're going to get paid. They tell me what their rates are, and then we pay them accordingly. And that's a new model. It's a new model and it's a model that we should try and embrace, because talent shouldn't be free. Talent should be paid for. And there's people who come to us with 20 years of experience in the whiskey world, writing articles for us, doing podcasts for us, 7-episode podcast with Fionnán O'Connor coming up. Unbelievable knowledge that has been amassed over 20 years of research. That shouldn't be free. Experts should be paid, and they are paid in the Whiskey Club. And so that's why that model exists. And so I know that can be off-putting to people who just want to get hold of a bottle of whiskey, but the bottle of whiskey doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in this club model that's designed to lift the tide for all contributors. So if the club does well, if we as whiskey drinkers do well, the people who bring the whiskey to us should do well. The people who write for the club should do well. The people who create tasting notes for us should do well. We should all do well. That's a model I am willing. It's a hill that I'm willing to die on. If the model doesn't work because there aren't enough people who support that model, I'm willing to close that model down. But we have to support this model. We have to. I really think we have to. I don't think there's any other way around it. It's a model that you wouldn't expect somebody to come and fix your plumbing for free. You wouldn't expect somebody to fix your roof for free. You wouldn't expect somebody to write you a novel for free. We pay for books. We pay for music. We go to the cinema, we pay for movies, and I think we should pay people who create good content for us, and that's the model that exists. So there's a reason that the stuff is behind the paywall, and these links are behind the paywall. So I hope you understand it and support it. I know you do support it because you're here, but for those wondering why it exists, that's the reason. And I'm willing to risk kind of the model by keeping on doing it. I think we have to keep doing it. All right, James says, I'm to tell us what you really think. I think it's important. I think it's important we share what we think on that. All right. No one has any comment on that. All right, Kevin does. 100% agree. 1000% agree. Okay. That's it. Like, that's the model. It has to be the model. It has to be. If it was free, no one would get we wouldn't be able to have any content creators. We wouldn't have people coming to us. I have a list as long as my arm of people who want to write for Stories and Sips, really qualified experts who can lend a lot to us, who don't produce whiskey. So they have no way of making a living except from their own content writing, their article, their journalism, things like that. And we'll use these people in time as the business model allows us to pay them, right? So we're funneling our subscription fees into paying the people, the talent that can bring us these whiskeys. And then it allows us to keep our whiskey at as low a price as we can possibly make it to bring it to you, because all the costs are paid for through subscription. All right. Cheryl 100% agrees with it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, we're taking a bit of a risk, and I know it's upsetting some people. I've had a couple of emails from people saying, why are you charging for this? And they don't agree. That's okay. I know we're going to run into it. I just don't think content should be free. And I don't think 7 hours of listening to the world's foremost expert on pots of whiskey should be free. And I don't think that great experts in whiskey tasting and nosing and people who've refined their palate over 10, 15 years, giving us tasting notes, should do that for nothing either. I think they should be paid as well. All right. And another thing on that, there's another important point, which I haven't made, and I'm on my soapbox now. This is an advertising free model. And the reason why, so we will never take a penny from a whiskey brand in the Whiskey Club. So you can't sponsor the Whiskey Club. You can't pay to get your whiskeys in front of people. The only thing we'll ever take from a whiskey brand is their whiskey if they want to work with us. So now that is for the quarterly tasting. So Clanakilty is donating their whiskey. So all we're paying for is the handling and the shipping. That's it. They're donating the whiskey. So you don't have to pay for the whiskeys. Now, would we do this with Clanakilty if their whiskeys were terrible? Of course we wouldn't. I have been using the Clanakilty whiskeys for corporate events for 2 years. And I'm a big fan. Their Port Cask is one of my favorite whiskeys. So that's the only way a brand can work with us. They can't sponsor us. They can't pay me. I've had people ask, can we pay to get our whiskeys in front of your audience? You cannot. There's no way to do that. The model is advertising free. And you know why that helps us? Because if a whiskey is bad, you're not going to hear about it. Or if I get particularly upset by a whiskey, you will hear about it. But I've had questions asking, why have you never featured this whiskey? Well, it might be because it's bad and we don't want to work with those people, or we don't want to, there could be a reason the whiskey might not be suitable, or there's a number of reasons. So it's advertising free and allows us to, if we want to talk about, if we want to make friends with whiskey producers and go down rabbit holes with them because they're doing interesting things, we're not we don't have to pull back because we're going with a different advertiser who doesn't want us focusing on single grain. They'd much rather we push blends. You can sponsor the Whiskey Club. It's as simple as that. So we're advertising free. Advertising free. All right, Julia has cleared her cache. The pop-up still comes up, not able to order right now. Okay, we'll get that sorted for you. Dave says, I do this full-time for you. There should be compensation. Yeah, look, it is the thing I hope you see I'm the most passionate about in the world. I am absolutely passionate about Irish whiskey, and this is my job. This is my full-time job. Irish whiskey is my full-time job. The Whiskey Club is a massive part of this full-time job. And look, if I hope you get value out of it, and by charging a monthly fee for the Whiskey Club, I have to earn your monthly subscription every month. And if there's a month where you say, do you know what, it's not worth it for me, you get to cancel, and I get to look at the numbers and have to fix what we're doing or provide more value or learn why you might cancel your membership. So I've got to earn my $20 every month from you. And that pays my bills and it pays the bills for the club. And it's as simple as that. And we have another employee. We have another full-time employee as well. So there's two of us at it. So it's, it's an advertising free model. Sean's interested in that. Definitely a great value and all in for the advertising free model. Yeah, it's advertising free. Do I need an intern? Jeff, you want to be my intern? We need a software intern at the moment, I think, to get rid of a pop-up, or we need a pop-up sniper. James says, totally agree. This isn't a purchasing club. It's a community, a way to support and promote. Fantastic. Look, James, I think you've summed up what matters to me there. A way to support and promote. Dave, who's here in our community, who's here in the chat tonight, a few of the other, who else is here? Kristen is here. Kristen and Dave will attest to this. Walking around Whiskey Live, how many people stopped you and said, hey, we've seen you in the Irish Whiskey Fans of America, or we've seen you in the Stories and Sips Club. You're a member of the club. How many people stopped me, whiskey brands or fans of Whiskey in Ireland, and said, thanked us for what we're doing for Irish whiskey? And we're not doing this for awards, we're not doing it for accolades, but it's just amazing to see that there's such happiness and support for what we're doing in Ireland, and people are delighted that we're supporting and flying the flag for Irish whiskey in the United States. And we have to do more of that. Like, we have to just keep flying the flag for small producers. How many of you would ever have discovered Thomond Gate Irish whiskey if it wasn't for us all coming together? How many of you would ever come across Two Stacks? How many of you would ever come across JJ Corrie? Three small niche producers that I know are not on every shelf in the United States. How many would have come across Dingle, Sleeve League, WD O'Connell? And there's more and more and more like that we're going to get to work with. We have to get these brands in front of you because they're interesting people doing interesting things. Some of you have gone to Ireland and have already met with these people. Some of you have bought casks from these people. Some of you have introduced them to your family members. You've been in some of you have been in their houses, and they've been in some of your houses as well. That, to me, now is what a community is all about and what we're building here. And look, we can have launches like this, and we'll have some technical difficulties and we'll have some challenges. We'll fix those. 35 of you are coming on a whiskey bus in 8 weeks' time because of our community. We're going to go around Ireland in a bus together because we all came together around Irish whiskey. This is not a purchasing club, and no one's going to get rich out of this. We're going to come together and we'll be rich in spirit, and we'll be rich in spirits, but our hearts will be warmed from the people we meet. Some of my best friends, hand on heart, in my life now today have come through the past 6 years of being in this world of Irish whiskey. Some of the best friends I've ever made, and I've been on this planet not longer than 6 years, but they come from Irish whiskey, and long, long, long may that continue. Long may that continue. Stacey would never know about the Liberator without this club, right? Like, I was drinking a bottle of the Liberator the other day. Where is it? It's right here. I had it. Oh yeah. Another man we need to do more work with, Maurice O'Connell, down there in Killarney. I was drinking his malt and Moscatel finish. Look, like lovely cask strength whiskey that he's got here. Maurice, again, another one of those great characters that came through to us through our lock-ins and now part of our community. I think we'd agree as well. JD says, thanks for sharing the ethos. Yeah, look, I don't maybe talk about this, about the fact that we're not pushing whiskey brands that are paying me. I will tell you this, that I have hosted the Waterford Distillery podcast, and I have received remuneration for hosting the Waterford Whiskey podcast. You don't see me pushing Waterford upon you, and you'll also see the last time I reviewed Waterford's whiskey online, I shared quite openly when I tasted the Gaia. I'm still wrapping my head around it. I'm still trying to understand it, but I'm a huge fan of what Waterford's doing. And I got that job to host their podcast because I did a video 3.5 years ago saying that I believe the Waterford distillery is the future of Irish whiskey. And I still actually believe that to this day. And that's how I got on their radar. But the Waterford, that work has no bearing on our work as a whiskey club. So there's no way to pay to get into the whiskey club as a brand. There's just no way at all. And we can't ever allow an advertising driven model, because once you do that, you become pay for play. And there's no way we're going to blur the lines between editorial and advertorial. It's just not a model we can do. We just can't do it. Brian wants to know what he'd do with his time and money without this community. Probably build a house. Honestly, with all the money you've been spending in this community. Stacey, the next bus we'll take, the next whiskey tour we'll try and organise, we'll head south and we'll try and take in Killarney and Morris down the south as well. Cologne, yes, we can't leave out Cologne, of course. The first ever Meet the Maker event. Think about some of the things we've managed to do and the people who've been brought to the United States because of how we're all coming together. Brendan Carty was our first ever Meet the Maker event with Cologne Distillery. First ever Meet the Maker event in our club, Brendan Carty. Two Stacks, the first ever whiskey. Brian Nation, master distiller, but moved to this new distillery. How many of you would have heard of O'Shaughnessy Distilling in Minneapolis? If it wasn't for our community that's come together here, he was our first club cask. So really, really proud of the people that were able to, I'm not going to say that we bring together, but rather they come together because we as a community exist. I think that's the important thing. Bill says he's all for a member supported Barry driven whiskey club. So look, I'm not driving it, but I'm happy to do the work needed to bring us all together, right? I don't, the typical Irish way is we can't claim any credit. So we must immediately shoot down any credit. And I don't take any credit. Instead, I think we've got an amazing community and I do want to bring everyone together around this platform. So if I'm the custodian of the platform, that's it. But everyone else has made this community what it is. Dave walking around Whiskey Live, shaking hands like the Pope. Kristen over in Searson's saying hi to people that she's met online. Stacey, Steve, Kieran, our committee, Diarmid, Rick, like all these people are really the ones that build this community. But it has to be member supported. So if you tell me this is awful, you hate what we're doing here, and you're cancelling your membership, we get to learn from that every time. And if somebody signs up, it's because they like this member-driven model. So I think I need to make more of a fuss about the fact that this is the model that everyone gets paid. Like everybody gets paid. So go through the Stories and Sips Whiskey Club website. Go through storiesandsIps.com. Every tasting note, every cocktail, every article that's been written, every single person there, all of our fantastic contributors, every single one of them, invoice us. We pay them. And we've created, I love that model. I love it because we're not asking anybody for favors. We're paying people what they're worth. And it's a win-win-win model. The old publishing model, I'm convinced, is gone. The old publishing model of advertising driven is gone. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Stacey had never heard of Talnua before our group. Now we're helping them release the first ever American bottle and bond pot still whiskey in history, thanks to this incredible community. Talnua came across my desk 4 years ago. I eventually got to visit there 2 years ago and have whiskeys in Talnua Distillery in Colorado, listening to the story of Irish style pot still inspired by a trip to Ireland, sitting in Sonny Malloy's pub, Patrick and Megan Miller drinking Redbreast on their honeymoon, blown away by Irish pot still whiskey, coming back to America, starting a distillery. They'll say themselves that the greatest community that they've ever built up is around Stories and Sips and the Irish Whiskey Fans of America. That's incredible. And the more we can do that, the more we're going to meet interesting characters along the way. So if we can keep building this member-supported model, it's the NPR model, isn't it? You try and get the members to support it, and we'll bring quality, objective, non-biased, non-advertising driven content and whiskey releases to you. Barry hosted. That's better, Bill. That's better. Okay. Let me see. James says, amazing people producing an amazing product. I agree. There's amazing people coming together around this mad idea of a club and a community, and now buses and all kinds of things spinning out of it. So we have somebody here in our group who just commented to say that the comments on Tolman Gate are very appropriate. He knows Nick Ryan appreciates the exposure. And I know people who've gone and done business with Nick Ryan and others, and Dahi O'Connell have gone and bought casks. I know people within our community who have even offered support financially to whiskey brands in Ireland, investment opportunities. Imagine an investment to whiskey brands. That's what's happening in our community, is that people are connecting with people. If Stories and Sips and the Whiskey Club became this retail only brand where we're just retail forward, where you go to our website and you see a list of bottles, you'd connect with nobody. You wouldn't know the people behind it. You wouldn't know the ethos behind it. You wouldn't know the values, the purpose behind any of the releases. You wouldn't know the places. You wouldn't know the relatives and the relations that you have in common. If we lead with the people in the community and we find a good whiskey because of it, it's a win-win-win. And I see so much business being done as a result of the people that are connecting through this platform. So let's just keep building it. Let's keep building it. Okay, Jeff Adams, folks, has found the solution. His order is placed. We can officially end the live stream. The man who has more whiskey than all of us combined has finally got a bottle of the Craic. Happy days. Happy days. Woohoo! Dave says the relationships mean the most. And Dave has gone around Ireland and had the red carpet rolled out for himself, like he was the Lord himself coming down from heaven. All because of just the people you meet here, which is brilliant. Okay. If you've just joined, I'll start my rant all over again. I won't. If you just joined, we are releasing the Craic officially. Tonight's the first night. We have lots of the Craic available, 318 bottles, I think, and 36 of those in Ireland. The rest of them are in the United States. This will remain on sale until it goes out of stock. I don't think that'll happen immediately. We have lots of members, but not all of our members are interested in all of our projects or in single grain whiskey. But you are entitled to buy up to 2 bottles yourself of the Craic. We may, because of some logistical issues with getting hold of the Clanakilty minis through some logistical delays, have to push back our Festival of Grain a week. I'll be updating you on that. That word came in later this afternoon. We will be confirming that. We may push back our Festival of Grain a week. We may push back our Clanakilty tasting a week. We'll have to roll with the punches. We'll roll with the punches. Brian says we got a good 8 hours left to go. All right, let's go. Let's keep this going. I should order some delivery food to come up to me here. Kieran wants to know if I have any ideas about the next release. I do. I have lots of ideas. Do you really want to know about the next release already? What if I shared something cryptic? Let's see if I can do this. And by the way, thanks for all your patience. For those of you who came on here expecting a 30-second turnaround. No community was ever built in 30 seconds. You wouldn't even have a chance to have a chat with somebody at the bar in 30 seconds. You know, this is the bar where you come in, you order your pint, and then the bartender forgets that you ordered the pint. And a half hour later, he looks at you and goes, I know that fella from somewhere. And then you remind him that you ordered a pint from half an hour ago, and he goes, that's it, Murphy's, wasn't it? And you say, no, Guinness. And then he gives you Beamish, right? That's the kind of club we have here. We'll get there in the end, and we'll have a bit of crack on the way. So let me pull up something here. See if I can share something cryptic for you all. for our next whiskey release, and then you can all try and guess what it is. All right, I'm not even sure how we get to do this. All right, let's share a video file. Okay. See if this is a good one. All right, I'm going to find a video file to give you some cryptic hint at what we're doing. And you'll surely be able to guess it from this. Get the right video. Is it this one? Okay. This is your cryptic clue on the next one. Play it again. This is our next whiskey release. What are we showing you? What are we showing you? I'll show you a different video. Let's find another one. Okay, here's a good one, I think. Lost it. Okay, let me try again. Peter knows but won't spoil it. Dave knows. Kevin reckons it's Clare Island. Jeff reckons it's the Cliffs of Moher. Let me pull up another video here. This will... You're going to have to be quick with this one. It's not the best video, but we'll put it up here anyway. Who's that? Getting frozen. Right. Well, any ideas? Who's that? Who's that? All right, so there's another clue for you. All right, let's remove that one. Let's show you another last video. Okay. The location here is very important. The location is very important because unbeknownst to you, in each of these videos is our next whiskey. It's actually in the videos. This is the Cliffs of Moher. This tower you're seeing is called O'Brien's Tower, as Jeff Adams rightly says. And O'Brien's Tower is a wonderful tower on the top of the cliffs of Moher, looking out at the Atlantic Ocean. And inside in the cliffs of Moher Tower, the O'Brien's Tower on the cliffs of Moher, is our whiskey right now. Our whiskey is there right now inside O'Brien's Tower because we've teamed up with JJ Corrie to finish for the next 3 months, 9 barrels of whiskey in there and 9 50-litre barrels. And I can't say any more than that right now, only that we're going to do something very special over the next few months with them. And when I talk about community, and we talk about involving small niche businesses, JJ Corrie is one. We talk about community events. We're going to have some community events around that tower in person as well over the next few months. And our next whiskey is in that tower right now. It's in the tower. And I can't say any more than that, except that there will be a series of whiskies, a series that you'll be able to participate in, or maybe you just want one, or maybe you just don't want any, you just want to watch the Craic unfolding. Anyway, I'll come back to that in once we get this whiskey launched successfully and in your hands. The Craic is what we're talking about now. The Craic is our whiskey of the night, whiskey of the day, and whiskey of the year, 6-7 months in the making, and it will be winging its way to you next week. Shipping will start next week. Okay, so don't get too antsy when you go to your door in the morning and say, Barry, where's my whiskey? I ordered it 8 minutes ago. It will be shipping next week because we're waiting on Clanakilty minis to arrive. They are a week longer getting across the country than expected, a week longer. So the Clanakilty minis are holding things up for us. Don't worry. Don't worry. Remember what we said earlier? There's no whiskey emergencies. We'll get all these things to you and we'll have a good bit of crack around them. Our Clanakilty quarterly tasting event, incidentally, will involve their new master distiller, who hasn't even been announced yet. They have a new master distiller. Their previous master distiller has been headhunted away out of there. Paul Corbett has gone to Powers Court Distillery. He has been headhunted out of there, but also his wife, who is from Dublin, wanted to move closer back to Dublin. There's a new master distiller in Clanakilty who has great experience in the southwest of Ireland, and he will be announced on the event, on our quarterly tasting event. So we get a chance to ask for his thoughts on the Clanakilty distillate and what he'd like to do with the whiskies going forward. So that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Stacey's already on her porch waiting, tapping her watch, saying, listen, I was assured I'd get this. Crack dealer. You want a crack dealer t-shirt? That's a good idea. Jeff says, I thought expedited was next day. Expedited means the next day we'll think about when we're going to ship it to you, and then we'll ship it. All right. So I think we've got all your questions. Hopefully you've got all your questions answered. Jeff says only €1 to climb to the top of the tower. It's free. It's free. There's no cost to go to the top of the tower. I know that because I was in there this week. What's interesting about the Cliffs of Moher is that you can't charge people. Ireland is kind of unique in this sense. You can't charge people to see their cliffs. What you can do is charge them a hefty fee to park their car. And that's how the Cliffs of Moher makes their money. And sell them things in the gift shop. But you can't charge people to see the cliffs. You can, however, up in Northern Ireland, be charged to see the Giant's Causeway, but not in County Clare. You can't be charged to see the cliffs. Jeff had to pay in 2019. Those were tough times. They're flush with renewed tourism dollars now. No charge to get to the top of the tower. All right. So I think we've covered the official launch. Thanks for your support as we work through some of those bugs. We'll get through the rest of our challenges with shipping, and we'll look at the list and just bear with us. Like over the next week, let us work through this list. Reach out to me directly if there was something you were hoping to do with the bundles that you couldn't get done. Will you message me, and we'll get to it over the next week. We will definitely get to it. Again, these won't ship for at least a week, so relax, pour a whiskey. I know you have at least 7 on hand, and know that this is in good hands, and we're gonna create a good event for you to taste this whiskey. So that is the next steps. Really, is you're getting to taste the whiskey in the company of your fellow club members, but also in the company of the people who made the whiskey. So every time we launch a whiskey, we'll do events with the makers, the producers, the blenders. We'll bring experts in to talk to us. So what I want to do for the Festival of Grain Whiskey, which I'm still finalizing, is bring people who've got some perspective, some historical knowledge, and let them share with you more of the story of grain whiskey, of column distillation, of the whiskey trials that were taking place back in the early 20th century when grain whiskey was being shunned by the Jamesons and the Powers of the world, and the rise to the most produced whiskey in Ireland today, grain whiskey. It's a remarkable story. Just as Jameson passes 10 million bottles sold in a single year last week. Can you believe that? 10 million bottles. Well, the equivalent of about 9.5 million bottles worth of grain whiskey is in those 10 million bottles, I can assure you. Grain whiskey is what makes up the bulk of Jameson. Grain whiskey is what makes up the bulk of Bushmills. It's what makes up the bulk of Powers Gold Label, and on and on and on. So grain whiskey has been leaned on, relied upon, leveraged for quality whiskeys for a long time. It's time to give it its time in the spotlight. And that's what the release of single grain, single cask, the Craic does. It gives us a chance to talk about it. You may come away from the tasting saying, I will never drink grain whiskey again. And that's okay. You paid $79 to learn what you like and what you don't like. And I think the club should be experimental, and we should try things that we wouldn't normally get. And that's certainly something that's going to happen with our next release as well, something we definitely wouldn't normally get. So lots to try and enjoy. Okay. Thanks, Michael, for the words. Thanks, Stacey, for all the support in the comments there tonight. Thank you to all of you for joining in. I will talk more about our next release in due course. I know there's lots of questions. I can't answer them all tonight, but we will come back to it. For now, we're going to focus on getting as many Clanakilty kits into your hands, as many bottles of the Craic into your hands. You'll see lots of more emails coming out over the next week, and links and updates. So stay tuned. The next thing that's going to happen is really, really important. It's this Friday night. We're going to come live from the Middleton Distillery in County Cork. The Middleton Distillery, folks, we've been invited into the Middleton Distillery by Kevin O'Gorman, master distiller. When I started this club, the last thing I ever thought that would be possible would be that we'd be invited in the gates of the Middleton Distillery by Kevin O'Gorman. Not because Kevin O'Gorman didn't like us, but because I never even met the man at the time. And it's only in the past few months that this club has allowed us to meet interesting people and really fantastically talented people in the world of Irish whiskey. And we're now going into the Middleton Distillery. It'll be a little bit earlier. It'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Irish time. Poor Kevin has to go to bed as well. Let's not forget. And inside the gates, we'll be locked into the Middleton Distillery. Some of you were there when we were locked into the Bushmills Distillery. This will be, I think, a little bit more of a tame event, because we're not going to be driving buses around the inside of the Middleton Distillery, I can assure you. But Kevin has promised to open up a few special bottles. We'll talk about special whiskies. He's going to give us an insight into the most sought after, prestigious Irish whiskies that have ever come out of the distillery, the Silent Distillery collection, which are now up to 47 years of age. They're working towards their 50-year-old whiskey in 2025 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Middleton Distillery, which was opened in 1825 by the Murphy family. We'll talk about Silent Distillery. We will take your questions. You'll be able to ask Kevin O'Gorman, the man who oversees all production of Middleton whiskies, Jameson, Powers, Redbreast, Method and Madness. So many, I think 60 different expressions in total, all the spot whiskies. Kevin O'Gorman's the man who signs off on all of them. It's his name on every bottle of Middleton Very Rare for the past 2 years. You get to ask him a question, you as a club member. Can you believe that? Like, we get to sit with these people who have been absolute heroes of mine since I got into the world of whiskey. And I know for many of you who've shared, people like Kevin and Louise McGuan and others are your heroes in the world of whiskey. We get to meet them. We get to talk to them. They're interested in talking to us. They're interested in talking to you, because they recognize the value of the club and the remarkable interest you as a club have been showing in Irish whiskey and in Ireland, to the point where you've come to Ireland. I know some of you went to Ireland, went to Whiskey Live. You shook the hands of these people and they knew who you were because they saw you in the club already. That's an amazing thing. So I really hope you tune in on Friday. and join us. So the links to join that are on our website on storiesandships.com, Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. It'll be recorded if you can't make it live. Also, we'll send the details out by email to you on Wednesday, and you'll get those details as well. All right. It won't. Tom says, how many hours should I be ready for? I expect it to be an hour-long event. An hour-long event. Kevin has to be up the next morning early, so he has let us in at 11 o'clock Irish time. Sinead, folks, that's it. Thanks a million for the support and for helping us work through the launch. We got there. We launched the thing. Now we get to refine it and figure out how we need to make more of it available over the next few weeks to people who are thirsty. Lots coming. Lots ahead. July 3rd, after that, is our next event. Whether you're a club member or not, July 3rd, I know lots of you are going, more than 25 of you are going to Talnua in Colorado for the release of their single pot still whiskey, bottled in bond, 50% ABV, first time a bottle and bond pot still ever released in America. I know Stacey and Dave are excited to meet lots of you there in Colorado on July 3rd. That's another historic event. That's the next in-person event, and that's the last in-person event before our whiskey bus on August 20th. Brilliant. Sláinte, everybody. Thanks a million, and we'll see you in the club or in the Facebook group and on Twitter and Instagram and online. Again, message me if you have any challenges getting hold of what you wanted to get hold of tonight. We'll send out lots more reminders, lots more links. You won't be left short. Thanks so much for all the support. Thanks to Larry. Thanks to Folsom. Thanks to John O'Donovan. Thanks to Irish Malts and Grace for putting together our support on the European side. Thanks to our Whiskey Club committee, Stacey and Steve and Dave and Kieran and Rick and Diarmid, and who else am I forgetting? So many. Brian, and thank you all for all the support for what we're doing. It really does mean a lot. This is not a one-man show. It happens to be one person who goes on camera like this, but it's many people behind the scenes that it takes to put something together like this. Many people who give up their own time, who give up time with their family and their friends to help us build this thing. And I, for one, put a lot of pressure on people to get these things right and to get these launches right. And people put up with it somehow. And for that, I'm very thankful. And with each release, I always promise to be a little less pressureful on those that support. But I know that we need to get things right, and they know too, but I'm sometimes a bit of a control freak. So I apologize to those who I scream at, come on, we need this fixed, please, come on. You've all been so helpful to me and to our club, and for that we're eternally thankful, and will remain so, and look forward to having a drink with you all in person very soon. So thanks everybody, sláinte, and have a good night. Sláinte.